Anxious and restless, pressed down by the darkness, bound up and wound up so tight. So many decisions, a million revisions, caught between darkness and light. Wow. Have you ever felt caught in that very bind? That overwhelming sense that every single new choice you face just drains more of your mental energy, leaving you prone to errors, maybe? Or even just feeling stuck, paralyzed. That's a line from the band Rush, and it really nails a challenge a lot of us face, maybe without even knowing what to call it. Welcome to this special deep dive. This is the FBS podcast. We're part of the Forest Business School's broader mission, which is all about helping mid-career professionals like you elevate your skills, navigate the complexities of today's working world. And our mission today, we want to explore this pervasive yet often unacknowledged challenge. It hits a lot of entrepreneurs hard, especially those in, say, rural, capital-intensive industries. We're talking about decision fatigue. We're going to unpack what it is, why it seems to disproportionately affect certain sectors, and most importantly, equip you with some practical, actionable strategies to combat it. And these all come from a pretty comprehensive report that was designed specifically for business owners. So let's just jump right in.
Yeah, it's a really crucial topic. Like you said, so many people feel it but don't necessarily have a name for it or understand what's really going on. So when we talk about decision fatigue, essentially we're referring to this erosion of judgment. It happens after a long run of making choices. Or you could think of it as the mental strain that builds up when you have to make a lot of consequential choices, often in rapid succession.
Okay, so it's not just like, oh, I'm tired from working hard all day.
Exactly. That's a key distinction. It's different from general physical exhaustion. This is specifically about the cognitive toll of constant decision-making. Think of it like this. Your brain's capacity for making good, high-level decisions is sort of like a battery.
Okay, a brain battery. I like that analogy.
Yeah, and every choice you make, whether it's big or small, it drains a little bit of that energy. The more choices, the lower the battery gets. Eventually, your ability to make really clear, sound decisions starts to, sputter. It diminishes. Some researchers even call this ego depletion, where your self-control and your decision-making resources just get worn down.
Wow, that's quite powerful. So it's not just feeling sluggish, it's your actual judgment deteriorating. That's significant. And what's really fascinating, based on the report, is that while anyone can experience this, it seems particularly intense for owners of these rural working lands businesses.
Yeah.
Like a logger in upstate New York, maybe, or a small sawmill owner in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Why them specifically? Why are they so uniquely vulnerable?
It really boils down to the sheer entrepreneurial burden in those sectors. Owners of these small, often capital-intensive businesses, think forestry, wood products, farming, other rural trades. They aren't just managing one piece of the business. They are very often wearing many, many hats.
Right. They're the CEO, the CFO, the operations manager.
The sales lead, the HR department, sometimes even the person running the machine or fixing the equipment, all rolled into one. So every single decision, from big strategic ones down to tiny operational micro decisions, from all those different roles, it lands squarely on their shoulders.
That constant switching between different types of decisions must be incredibly taxing.
It is. That context switching alone is draining. And the volume is just immense. This constant, high-stakes decision-making creates, a perfect storm for decision fatigue.
So it's the volume and the variety. But the report mentions specific magnifying factors too, right? Things that make it even tougher for these folks.
Absolutely. Let's tick through a few. First, limited staffing. In a bigger company, you'd have dedicated teams, right? Finance, HR, operations, sales. But the rural business owner, often they're all those departments. They're handling everything from buying raw materials, setting prices, managing complex compliance paperwork, making critical safety calls on the fly.
It's just a constant barrage.
It really is. Every single one of those micro decisions adds up.
And I imagine financial pressures play a big role too, especially in businesses that are seasonal or deal with fluctuating markets.
Precisely. Seasonal cash flow swings are a huge factor. Think about harvest seasons or construction seasons, or even just the demand for something like firewood in the winter. This puts significant financial pressure on the owner and requires really complex planning.
Yeah, if your income is up and down, planning becomes way harder.
Much harder. A bad season, a sudden drop in market prices, an unexpected equipment breakdown, it can have immediate severe consequences. This forces more urgent, more stressful decisions about where to put money, maybe delaying investments or juggling payments. It demands constant attention and really tough calls.
Okay, so limited staff, intense financial pressure.
Yeah.
What about technology? Or maybe the lack of it in some rural areas. I can see that adding to the strain.
Definitely. Patchy broadband is a really significant hindrance for many. It limits access to timely information, to digital tools that others might just take for granted.
It's like trying to look up a part number quickly or process an online payment.
Exactly. Or even just sending a large file like a contract or a plan. If the connection is slow or keeps dropping, that's not just annoying, it's a constant low-level cognitive drain.
You waste mental energy just fighting the tech.
Right. It forces you back to manual processes sometimes, increases frustration, makes you double-check things more often. It just adds to that overall cognitive load. You're trying to remember things you could normally look up instantly.
And then there's the complexity of the operations themselves and compliance.
Yes, these businesses often involve intricate production processes. Think about optimizing a sawmill's cut list or planning a logging operation on sensitive terrain. Plus, there are safety regulations, OSHA logs in logging, for example, environmental compliance, financial management complexities, all demanding constant attention and careful decisions.
So it's this combination, wearing all the hats, the money worries, tech hurdles, complex rules.
Yeah.
It really sets them up for this decision fatigue. And the real risk here, what happens when that fatigue sets in? What's the impact on the business?
The big risk is a much higher chance of making costly errors. Or, on the flip side, decision paralysis.
So mistakes like miscalculating a bid.
Yeah, or ordering the wrong part for a critical machine, which means more downtime. Or making a poor judgment call about, say, pulling equipment off a job site because of weather, maybe causing damage or delays.
And the paralysis part.
Sometimes the sheer number of choices, especially when you're mentally drained, just feels overwhelming, so you delay. You avoid making the decision.
I'll deal with that tomorrow.
Exactly. But that inaction can be just as damaging as a bad decision. Missed opportunities, problems that get worse because they weren't addressed. Ultimately, this fatigue leads to suboptimal calls that directly hit the business's bottom line, its reputation, maybe even its long-term survival.
Okay, this is really painting a clear picture. But, the report also mentioned some nuance here. It acknowledged that maybe decision fatigue isn't this universal thing that hits everyone the same way. Some big studies, like in healthcare you mentioned, didn't find clear evidence of doctors' decisions getting worse over a shift. Why is it important for us and for our listeners to understand that context?
That's a really critical point. It's important not to oversimplify. While many studies, especially lab-based ones, do show decision fatigue effects, it's true that some large-scale, real-world data sets haven't found that same clear decline. The example often cited is prescription data in healthcare, where doctors might make hundreds of decisions over a long shift.
And they didn't see performance drop off.
In some of those specific analyses, no measurable decline in, say, appropriate prescription choices was found. And that tells us something important. The effects of decision fatigue are likely very context-dependent. It's not necessarily a blanket rule that applies identically everywhere to everyone.
So what's the difference then? Why might it not show up for a doctor making prescription choices, but be so relevant for the business owners we're talking about?
Well, think about the context. A doctor prescribing medication might be following fairly established protocols, working from a defined list of options, maybe with decision support tools. The choices, while numerous, might become somewhat routine or structured. Contrast that with the owner-operator we've been discussing. They're juggling finance, production, sales, safety, often dealing with novel problems, unexpected crises, high stakes, maybe in isolation, often with limited resources.
Much less structure, much more ambiguity, higher personal stakes maybe.
Precisely. The nature of the decisions is different. They're often complex, multifaceted, carry significant personal and financial weight, and lack clear protocols. So for these entrepreneurs, the evidence strongly suggests they are especially vulnerable. The context of continuous, high-stakes, varied decision-making under real constraints seems to be where decision fatigue really bites. The implications for their performance and their business's health are significant.
Okay, so the takeaway isn't decision fatigue isn't real, but rather it's a very real risk factor, especially in this kind of entrepreneurial context.
Exactly. We should treat it as a critical risk factor to actively monitor and manage, not just some unavoidable fate you have to accept.
That feels much more empowering. It means there are things we can do.
Yes. You have agency.
Which leads us perfectly into the next section. The practical defenses. Knowing all this, what can these business owners actually do about it? I know the report is full of actionable strategies, things people can implement without needing huge budgets or hiring a bunch of new staff. What are some of these tools?
Right, the report synthesizes a lot of research and practitioner wisdom into what it calls practical defenses. These are really designed to lighten that cognitive load and help make better long-run choices. And like you said, they're mostly low-cost, high-impact things you can start doing pretty much immediately, often just needing a bit of discipline and time.
Okay, let's hear them. What's strategy number 1?
Strategy one is prioritize early, high-impact choices.
Sounds simple enough.
It sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful in practice. The core idea is to deliberately block out your prime cognitive hours. For most people, that's the first, say, 90 to 120 minutes of their workday.
When your brain battery is fully charged.
Exactly. When your mental energy is likely at its peak. You consciously use that time for the decisions that really matter, the ones that materially affect cash flow, safety, or major customer commitments. These are the choices where you need maximum clarity, focus, and accuracy.
So instead of starting the day clearing emails or dealing with minor stuff.
Right. Why waste that peak mental energy on low-value tasks? You tackle the big important decisions first, when you're freshest. Hit the dragons early, like you said earlier.
Makes sense. How do you put that into practice?
The report strongly recommends using a simple daily decision checklist. Before the day gets chaotic, you identify the 2-3 most critical decisions or tasks that need your best thinking. This ensures those crucial items get addressed before your mental energy inevitably starts to dip later on.
So it's about being intentional with that morning energy.
Absolutely. It's a low-effort, high-impact tactic. You're leveraging your natural cognitive cycle. The toolkit mentioned in the report even has templates for this, like a decision checklist template and a daily energy budget worksheet to help structure it. Win the morning, win the day.
I like that. Okay, win the morning. What's strategy number 2?
Strategy 2 is delegate and automate routine tasks. The goal here is simple. Free up your mental bandwidth. You do that by assigning predictable, repetitive work either to other people or to technology.
Offload the mundane.
Exactly. Every single micro-decision you don't have to personally make is energy saved for the more complex strategic challenges where your input is truly essential.
Now I can hear some listeners thinking, delegate. I'm a one-person show. Or I don't have staff I can just hand things off to easily. Or maybe nobody can do it right except me.
That's a very common hurdle, absolutely. But delegation doesn't always mean hiring someone new. It can mean leveraging existing staff, even part-time help more effectively, or, crucially, using affordable technology.
What kind of tasks are we talking about?
Think about things like routine payroll data entry, reordering standard supplies, confirming appointments, maybe basic social media posting, categorizing expenses. These are necessary tasks, sure, but do they always require the owner's direct moment-to-moment involvement and highest-level thinking? Often not.
So how do you offload them if you're small?
You could assign them to a trusted employee, maybe provide a clear checklist or procedure so they know exactly what to do, or you lean on technology. The report highlights simple, often free or low-cost tools, Google Calendar for automated reminders, QuickBooks rules to auto-categorize recurring expenses, Trello or similar tools for managing workflows or appointments.
So setting up systems.
Yes, it's classed as a moderate-effort, high-impact tactic. It takes some initial effort to set up the system or train someone, but the payoff in reduced daily decision load is huge and compounds over time. The toolkit even lists specific free or freemium tools, Google Calendar, Trello, maybe a free trial of QuickBooks Online, Canva for creating simple procedure templates, Slack for team communication. These are accessible even for very lean operations.
Okay, so delegate or automate the routine stuff. That makes sense. And that seems to flow right into strategy number 3.
It does. Strategy 3 is codify with checklists and standard operating procedures, SOPs. This is about taking recurring judgment calls, things you have to figure out over and over again, and turning them into repeatable, written steps.
Like a recipe for common tasks.
Exactly like a recipe. Instead of reinventing the wheel every time, you follow the established procedure. Think about daily equipment inspections, how you handle a new client inquiry, the steps for regulatory filings, even opening or closing procedures for the shop.
Writing it down frees up brain space.
Precisely. It minimizes the need for that on-the-fly judgment for routine things. Your mental energy is then conserved for handling the exceptions, the emergencies, the truly novel problems that do require your unique expertise and thinking.
Seems like another low-effort, high-impact one. A bit of work up front to write it down.
For a big long-term gain in mental efficiency, it's definitely low effort, high impact. But there's a crucial safety note here, especially for industries like forestry or millwork.
Right, you mentioned safety.
Yes. While SOPs streamline things, they must always respect safety regulations and account for site-specific conditions or nuances. Efficiency should never, ever compromise safety. Good SOPs should actually make safety easier and more consistent to follow, not provide a shortcut around it.
That's a vital point.
Yeah.
Okay, so prioritize early, delegate, automate, codify with SOPs. What's number 4? This one sounds simple. Schedule deliberate micro breaks.
It sounds simple, but it's surprisingly effective, and the science really backs it up. This strategy directly tackles something called vigilance decrement. That's just the natural decline in your attention and a performance when you're doing something demanding for a long time.
Your focus just kind of fades.
Right. And the countermeasure is short, structured pauses. We're talking just 5 or 10 minutes, maybe every 90 minutes or so. These breaks aren't just about resting your body, they actively help reset your mental sharpness and maintain cognitive performance throughout the day.
So it prevents the brain battery from draining completely flat.
That's a good way to put it. It's like topping it off regularly instead of letting it die and then trying to do a full recharge from zero when you're already exhausted. It helps keep your decision-making capacity from eroding.
And it doesn't have to be long. Just step away, stretch, look out the window.
Exactly. The key is to disengage from the demand of decision-making. Interestingly, just scrolling social media or checking email during these breaks might not work as well because your brain is still processing information, still making little micro decisions.
Oh, okay. So true disengagement, even briefly.
Right. Allow for genuine cognitive recovery. It's considered low effort, moderate impact. But doing it consistently makes a big difference cumulative.
Got it. And the final strategy, number 5, tap peer advisory networks. This sounds like it hits that isolation point you mentioned earlier for rural entrepreneurs.
It really does. There's tremendous power in community support and shared experience. Being part of an owner peer group like the FBS alumni circles mentioned in the report, or similar industry groups, allows entrepreneurs to do a few key things. They can sanity check their decisions with others who understand their world. They can share templates, tools, best practices.
So you don't have to reinvent everything yourself.
Exactly. And critically, it reduces that isolation-driven overthinking. When you're the only one making all the calls, it's so easy to get stuck in your own head, second-guessing everything, feeling the weight of it all.
It's like having a board of advisors, but informal and made up of people who really get it.
That's a great way to think about it. These networks are a sounding board, a source of practical, battle-tested solutions, and just shared understanding. If someone else in your group has already wrestled with a similar challenge or found a better way to handle something you're struggling with, that lifts a huge cognitive burden. You're not starting from zero.
Community support really matters.
Immensely. It significantly reduces the mental load. This one's tagged as moderate effort, high impact, because joining or forming a group takes some effort, but the benefits of collective wisdom, shared problem solving, and just the emotional support are often transformative for both the business and the owner's well-being. You realize you don't have to carry it all alone.
Those 5 strategies seem incredibly practical. Prioritize early, delegate, automate, codify, take micro breaks, and tap your peers. But, understanding the concepts is one thing. Seeing them in action is really where it clicks. So let's dive into those hypothetical case examples you mentioned. These are composites, right? But based on real scenarios.
Exactly. They're designed to mirror common situations and challenges faced by real owner-operators in forestry, farming, rural retail, these kinds of working lands businesses. They really show how these strategies translate from theory into day-to-day practice, and importantly, the tangible results they can produce.
Okay, let's start with Yankee Splinters. This is a firewood operation in Connecticut, run by owner-operator Rusty. Give us the picture of Rusty's business before he tackled decision fatigue.
Okay, so Rusty runs a stationery plant. They process about 1,800 cords of hardwood firewood a year, sawing, splitting, kiln drying, palletizing it. His main customers are upscale restaurants needing consistent quality and local home delivery. He's got a crew of 8-yard hands, kiln tenders, a driver, an office manager. But Rusty himself, he's the bottleneck. He handles all the finance, sales, and the compliance side. And he's under serious margin pressure, especially in winter.
Why winter specifically?
High energy costs. He's using propane-fired kilns and diesel generators, pushing his energy cost equivalent up to around 27 cents per kilowatt hour. That's way higher than competitors who might have more efficient 3-phase electric setups.
Ouch. So he knows he needs an upgrade, but it's a big, scary decision.
Exactly. Big capital investment, lots of variables. Meanwhile, he's drowning in the day-to-day.
So what did that daily drowning look like? What were his specific decision fatigue pain points during that busy winter season?
Well, during winter, Rusty was facing something like 40 to 50 distinct micro decisions every single shift. Things like setting precise moisture targets for the kilns, figuring out the optimal load sequencing, managing driver dispatch, ordering parts on the fly, keeping up with OSHA logs, which is always high stakes.
That's a lot of mental juggling.
A huge amount. And the fatigue showed up in classic ways. He found himself deferring important kiln adjustments until later in the day when he was already wiped out. That led to uneven drying, needing to rerun loads, which wasted time and expensive energy.
Okay, so procrastination driven by fatigue.
Yes. And he was constantly fielding calls, urgent vendor calls, interrupting him while he was trying to talk to retail customers. This chaos meant he'd miss reorder windows for critical supplies. There was one example where he had a 36-hour delay getting pallet wrap simply because he was too overwhelmed to place the order on time. Simple stuff, but with real consequences.
And the big kiln decision.
That was the killer. He was spending nights, sometimes until 2 or 3 a.m., hunched over spreadsheets, modeling the ROI on a new 3-phase electric kiln and the utility upgrade. But the sheer volume of other daily decisions, combined with the complexity of this one, led to total analysis paralysis. For 3 straight months, his answer was always, maybe next quarter.
He was completely stuck.
Yeah.
Exhausted, knowing he was leaving money on the table, but unable to pull the trigger.
That's the classic picture of decision fatigue really impacting a business.
Okay, so how did Rusty turn it around using these strategies? What did he implement?
He started with decision triage at 6 a.m. Simple, but effective. Before the chaos of the day began, he'd open a 10-item checklist he made in Google Docs. He'd prioritize the absolute critical items. Today's kiln load mix, a quick cash flow review, any urgent staffing issues.
Using that prime cognitive time we talked about.
Exactly. That disciplined, focused block using his peak energy was a game changer. The result? He finally broke through the analysis paralysis on the kiln upgrade. He made the decision, opting for an electric 70-cord unit with waste heat recovery in just 4 weeks, after being stuck for months. Huge relief.
Wow, just creating that structured morning focus unlocked that big decision. What else?
Next, he focused on delegation and automation. He empowered his office manager. She started scheduling all the routine B2C orders using a shared Trello board, managing it independently. Rusty also set up rules in QuickBooks to automatically categorize his recurring fuel receipts, saving him that small but cumulative decision every time.
Taking those routine things off his plate.
Yes. Offloading tasks that didn't need his strategic input freed up significant mental energy. This, combined with the kiln upgrade he finally decided on, led to a projected drop in his energy costs from that painful 27 cents down to about 15 cents per kilowatt equivalent. That translated to a projected lift in his gross margin of around 8%.
That's a massive, tangible financial impact directly from tackling decision fatigue.
It really is. And it wasn't just financial. He improved operations with SOPs for kiln cycles. He created a simple, laminated one-pager for the kiln tenders. Target temps, humidity levels, when to do probe checks. Clear, repeatable steps.
Reducing the guesswork for the team.
Right. It reduced the need for their on-the-fly judgment, ensuring more consistency and better quality. This operational clarity actually helped facilitate the big kiln project, too. The streamlined process made it easier to work with the utility company's rebate program, securing a 35% grant and 0% financing for the installation.
So clarity led to better execution and better financing. Amazing. What about Rusty himself, that exhausted nightly feeling?
He tackled that directly with a micro break cadence. He started using a Pomodoro timer 25 minutes focused work, then a mandatory 5-minute walk. Simple as that, enforced by his smartwatch.
Did it work?
Subjectively, profoundly, he reported going from feeling exhausted nightly to tired but clear-headed most evenings. A huge difference in his well-being. And he noticed he was spending way less time staring at spreadsheets after hours. He was actually reclaiming some personal time.
That's huge. And did the peer network play a role? Strategy 5.
It did. He made a point of engaging in peer advisory check-ins. He had a monthly Zoom call with his FBS alumni group. They'd share things like utility rebate worksheets, compare notes on energy strategies. It gave him practical ideas, but also, importantly, that sounding board and sense of shared experience, reducing the feeling that he was facing these challenges all alone.
Incredible transformation for Rusty. Okay, let's move west. Logger Todd, LLC in Western New York. What's Todd's situation?
Todd's 42, a sole proprietor logger. He runs a tracked harvester, cut-to-length system of forwarder, and his own log truck. He's harvesting maybe 3,500 to 4,000 tons of mixed hardwood a year, mostly on short-term stumpage contracts. His crew is small, Just him, one full-time operator, and a part-time driver. His markets are mainly low-grade pulp and saw logs for a couple of local mills, and his margins are tight, really tight, often under 10% on some jobs because of rising fuel costs, maintenance, and fierce competition for timber bids. High pressure, low margin for error.
Sounds like a stressful business. What were his decision fatigue pain points, especially during that tricky spring mud season transition?
Oh, mud season is tough for loggers. Todd's cognitive load was immense. He was constantly on the phone juggling landowners, his truck scheduler, the mills trying to manage delivery quotas. This chaos often led to missed dispatch windows. His expensive forwarder would end up sitting idle for half a day or more, just bleeding money.
Idle equipment is a killer in that business.
Absolutely. And then there were the constant high-stakes judgment calls right there on the job site. Is the ground too wet? Should we pull off? Fatigue played a role here. On one occasion, he pushed it, worked an extra afternoon when maybe his gut told him not to, and ended up causing significant rutting. That meant penalties deducted from his payment, a direct hit to his already thin profit.
Ouch. A bad call under pressure.
Yeah. And evenings weren't much better. Instead of resting, he'd be buried in complex bid spreadsheets, trying to forecast costs and revenues. This often led to him submitting bids late. He specifically mentioned losing out on a really promising 120-acre timber tract just because a competitor got their bid in faster.
So fatigue led to missed opportunities.
Definitely. And even late-night tasks like sourcing parts became problematic. He recalled ordering the wrong specs for some worn feed roller motors because he was exhausted, which then meant paying extra for weekend air freight to get the right parts quickly and avoid even more downtime. He just felt like he was constantly reacting, putting out fires, always behind the 8 ball.
That sounds exhausting and demoralizing. So what countermeasures did Todd put in place? How did he fight back?
He started with a simple tool, a morning critical 3 list. Before starting any equipment, he'd take literally 2 minutes to jot down on a pocket card the top 3 non-harvesting decisions or tasks that needed his attention that day.
Forcing that prioritization first thing.
Exactly. Tackle the critical admin or logistics when he was freshest. And it worked. His quota juggling with the mills became much more efficient. He estimated he cut idle machine time by about 6 hours a month just from that simple discipline. That's real money saved.
6 hours of machine time is significant. What about the dispatch chaos and those rutting penalties?
He addressed that with a delegated dispatch board. He had his part-time driver take responsibility for updating a shared Google Sheet load log. Todd just needed to review it once each evening. Simple delegation. And crucially, he paired this with a moisture threshold SOP.
Ah, the standard operating procedure.
Yes. He created a laminated card for the field with a clear, objective soil shear test. Basically, a simple test telling him the ground's bearing strength. If it was below a certain psi, that was the trigger to pull out. No more agonizing subjective calls when he was tired.
Took the guesswork out of it.
Completely. The result, those soil retting penalty deductions went to 0 for the whole season. Plus, it earned him goodwill with the foresters who managed the land. They appreciated his proactive care, which helps get future work.
Huge win. 0 penalties and better reputation. What about bidding? Losing tracks because he was too slow.
He instituted bid cycle discipline. He made a rule for himself. Submit or decline any bid within 48 hours of getting the full information package. No more endless tweaking when fatigued. This focus and speed meant he actually won 2 decent mid-sized tracks, primarily because he got his numbers in before slower competitors. Sometimes good enough and fast beats perfect and late.
Speed and clarity win, and his personal energy. The burnout factor.
He brought in structured rest blocks. He started using the timer on his harvester display to enforce a 15-minute break after every 2-hour cutting cycle. Subjectively, he said his fatigue score on a 1-10 scale dropped from feeling like an 8 or 9 most days down to a more manageable 5 or 6. And personally, a massive win. He went from spending 3 evenings a week stressing over bids down to just 1. He got some of his life back.
That's fantastic. Reclaiming evenings is huge for an owner-operator. Did peer support help Todd too?
Yes, he set up a peer benchmarking chat, just a bi-weekly evening phone call with 2 other local cut-to-length contractors. They'd informally compare notes cost per ton on recent jobs, challenges with equipment, bid strategies. It provided valuable insights, validated some of his own decisions, and just gave him that sense of camaraderie. Knowing others faced the same struggle significantly reduced his mental burden.
Great stuff. Okay, one more case study. Touchwood Mill works in Wisconsin. This is Ryan, a custom sawmiller. What's his operation like?
Ryan's 39. He runs a custom millworks. He takes locally bought logs, or sometimes logs owned by his clients, and turns them into bespoke products. Unique slabs, kiln-dried lumber, components for timber frames, those popular live-edge countertops. He processes around 500,000 board feet a year, and a big chunk, maybe 60%, is make-to-order, so a constantly shifting mix of custom jobs. His setup includes a bandsaw head rig, an edger, a kiln, a CNC router for joinery work, and a small showroom. Staff is himself, 2 mill hands, and a part-time person handling bookkeeping and inside sales.
So high complexity, lots of custom work. What were his pain points? Variable job mix, sawdust disposal, cash flow gaps were mentioned.
Exactly, those were the big ones.
The variable job mix made scheduling a nightmare. Sawdust disposal was a recurring cost and headache. And cash flow was tight because money was tied up in logs, or waiting for lengthy kiln cycles to finish, or waiting for final payments on custom jobs.
Okay, so during the peak spring remodeling season, when demand probably spikes, what did decision fatigue look like for Ryan? Spring was intense. Ryan was personally generating maybe 8 to 12 custom quotes every single day. Each quote involved multiple variables: wood species, dimensions, specific finishes, delivery logistics. The sheer volume and complexity done under pressure led to errors. He recalled specifically mispricing a large white oak countertop job by 15% below his target margin. A painful mistake.
Yeah, that hurts the bottom line directly.
Definitely. He was also constantly juggling the schedule for the head rig, the kiln, and the CNC router, trying to hit promised delivery dates, which were often tight. This dynamic, high-pressure scheduling often led to overlapped kiln loads, meaning they couldn't hit the precise moisture targets. This caused frustrating redrying delays and pushback deliveries.
More delays, more unhappy customers potentially.
Right. And inventory was another headache. He was constantly trying to balance milling logs for general slab inventory versus milling specifically for incoming jobs. When fatigued, he made reactive choices, like buying a batch of extra ash logs that then just sat in the yard for months, tying up thousands in cash.
Cash tied up in the yard isn't helping pay the bills.
Exactly. And then, piled on top of all that operational stress, was the end-of-day admin avalanche. Invoicing, sales tax calculations, payroll, keeping up with DOT compliance for his delivery truck. This relentless load meant he often felt overwhelmed, leading him to file quarterly tax returns late more than once, incurring small penalties and adding to his stress.
Man, that sounds like being caught in a whirlwind. Custom orders, complex scheduling, inventory, cash flow, admin. That's a lot. How did Ryan apply the strategies to get control?
He started with his quoting process, implementing a 2-tier quoting window. He made a rule. Quotes for bigger jobs, anything over $5,000, were handled only first thing at 7 a.m. peak cognitive time. Smaller, more routine quotes were batched together and priced after lunch, using a standardized Google Sheets template he created to speed things up.
So, protecting his best brain power for the highest value decisions. Did it make a difference?
A huge difference. His, quote, accuracy shot up. And get this, his average gross margin climbed from 27% to 34% within just 2 months of implementing this. That single change dramatically improved profitability.
Wow, 7 points on gross margin just from timing his quotes better. What about the scheduling chaos in the mill?
He tackled that visually with a color-coded Gantt board, a simple magnetic whiteboard in his office. He used different colored magnets to represent jobs and map out time blocks for the head rig, the kiln, the CNC. He made a point to review and adjust it midday every day. This visual system brought discipline and clarity. It cut his kiln turnaround overruns by 40%, boosting his on-time delivery rate to an impressive 96%. Huge improvement in efficiency and customer satisfaction.
Visual controls making a real difference. Okay, and the cash flow problem, the logs sitting in the yard.
He implemented a just-in-time log buys rule. Very simple threshold. Buy no log unless at least 70% of its projected lumber volume was already pre-sold or allocated to a confirmed custom order. He tracked this with a simple formula in his inventory spreadsheet. This discipline stopped the speculative, fatigue-driven impulse buys.
And the impact.
It freed up $18,000 in cash that was previously tied up in excess log inventory within just 1 quarter, a massive boost to his working capital and peace of mind.
Incredible. $18K freed up just from a simple buying rule? How did he handle that end-of-day admin burden?
He created an admin power hour. Every day at 4:30 p.m., he dedicated 1 solid hour, phone on Do Not Disturb, just to administrative tasks. Focus effort on clearing the inbox, getting invoices out, running through compliance checklists. This protected time drastically reduced that feeling of being constantly behind and overwhelmed by paperwork.
And his own energy levels.
His self-rating for cognitive load dropped significantly. He went from feeling drained, like a 9 out of 10 most days, down to feeling steady, maybe a 6 out of 10. And the big personal win, Ryan started leaving the mill by 5:45 p.m. most days instead of much later. He got his evenings back.
Another owner reclaiming their personal time. That's fantastic. Did peer networking help Ryan too?
It did. He participates in a peer revenue roundtable. It's a quarterly Zoom call with 3 other custom sawmill owners in the Midwest. They openly share data like, quote, win rates, discuss pricing strategies, and even brainstorm solutions for shared headaches, like finding better options for sawdust disposal. This collective intelligence helps him stay sharp, find new efficiencies, and feel less isolated.
These examples are so powerful. Rusty, Todd, Ryan. They all faced slightly different versions of this decision fatigue, but applying these practical strategies led to really significant improvements financially, operationally, and personally.
Absolutely. It really underscores that this isn't just some abstract psychological concept. Decision fatigue has real, tangible costs for businesses. But the good news is these countermeasures, though often simple, can have equally real and tangible benefits.
It's about working smarter, being intentional with that mental energy.
Exactly. It connects back to the bigger picture. By proactively managing cognitive load, these owners aren't just preventing losses or burnout, although that's huge. They're often unblocking the main bottleneck in their own business themselves and building more resilient, sustainable operations.
So wrapping this deep dive up, the core message seems clear. Decision fatigue. It's a very real thing, especially for dedicated owner-operators in these demanding rural industries. But, and this is the crucial part, it is not an insurmountable obstacle.
Not at all. We've seen through these examples how practical, often low-cost strategies can make a profound difference. Prioritizing early, leveraging delegation and automation, codifying procedures, taking breaks, connecting with peers. These things work.
It really empowers you, the listener, to navigate the complexities you face every day.
And the knowledge is accessible. It doesn't require some massive overhaul. It's often about disciplined application of these proven tactics. Treating decision fatigue as that manageable risk factor, not an inevitability.
So, connecting this back directly to you listening right now, what does all this mean for your professional development? It means you have agency here. You can sharpen your judgment. You can reduce costly errors. You can improve your overall well-being, your resilience, by being proactive about managing your cognitive load.
That really aligns with the whole mission behind the FBS podcast and the Forest Business School, providing these kinds of insights, these shortcuts to being well-informed so you can not just survive, but really thrive in these demanding roles.
Absolutely. So let's end with a final thought, something for you to maybe chew on after this deep dive.
Think about your own day. Just map it out mentally for a second. Where are your hidden micro-decisions piling up? What are those little things that are slowly, maybe imperceptibly, draining that brain battery?
And then ask yourself, what single small change could you maybe implement tomorrow morning? Just one thing. What could you do to reclaim even a small piece of your cognitive clarity, not just for the sake of your business performance, but genuinely for your own peace of mind?
Hey, this is Steve Bick with the Forest Business School. Thanks for listening to the FBS podcast, and I hope you will subscribe. The truth is, these deep dives barely scratch the surface of some of the topics we cover in the Forest Business School programs, and the podcast is a way of reaching a wider audience. Check out my website at vtfbs.com for more information. Reach out if you want to talk about one of the FBS programs or have custom training or project needs that you'd like to discuss. Again, thanks for listening to the FBS podcast.